Formal education through the school enrollment in the childhood years is widely recognized across the contemporary world as a key ingredient of the three complementary agendas. One being the promotion of economic progress, secondly the transmission of culture from one generation to the next, and finally the cultivation of children's intellectual and moral development. And in order for us to achieve all this for the benefit of our children and indeed for the benefit of the country, there is need of effective involvement of parents in the learning process. Hence, today on this podcast, we discuss the importance of parental involvement and learners' performance in rural areas and urban areas in Zambia. And to help discuss this topic, I'm joined by a panel of three. One being a lady from the University of Zambia studying business administration and with economics, Faith. Faith, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Ferai. I'm glad to be here.
I'm also joined by Andrico, an advisor for the International Association for Youth and Students for Peace, IAYSP. Andrico, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you so much. That was Andrico Tshaba, advisor to IAYSP Zambia, and we are found in Lusaka town along Benbela Road next to Comesa headquarters. So as IAYSP, we do carry out character education programs. We do also have peace designers tables, and at the same time we conduct cultural activities.
I'm also joined by Fredrick, an ambassador for the Back to School project at the Children's Development and Empowerment Foundation, teacher of early childhood education, and a tutor of teaching methods and assessments and evaluation on early childhood. Fredrick, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you, and welcome listeners.
In order for our listeners to understand this topic, let's bring them direct to the table. With you, Andrico, firstly, what exactly is parental involvement?
Before talking about parental involvement, I would like us to understand the meaning of the word involvement. What does it mean to be involved? To be involved means to participate, to be part of something. It is a connection of inclusion. So to include into something. It is the act of sharing in the activities of a group. Of course, here we are talking about children. So to share in the activities of your children. We know that education is a weapon, and it is very important for our success, and there is no way that we can develop, there is no way that we can be successful without education. So parents have a key role to play in the development of their children. So to be a parent is an art. It is a calling. It is not a chance to be a parent. So being a calling, this implies that there are some responsibilities that we should do as parents, and at the same time, as we do these responsibilities, we are kind of called to show some sacrifice. And what should be our motivation? What should be our intention as we are trying to get involved in our children's education? We should be able to understand that we get involved in order to improve their learning. As we improve their learning, what is the point of learning? A for apple, B for ball, C for cat, D for the point of learning all this is to create a better society, to create a better world, a world where we can all live happily, enjoy, a world where we can trust each other, a world where we can live in peace and harmony. And there are two things that define us as people. And in this sense, I'm talking about civilization. When we talk about a civilization, we look at two things. The first thing is education, and the second thing is the tradition. So Education, of course, most of you may only think of the type of education that we do receive at school, but actually education begins from home. And when we look at our homes, when we look at our house, who should be the center of the house? Who should be the center of the family? It is our parents. And when we go out into the society and we are sent to school, and our parents send us to school in order to be educated, in order to learn, in order to be prepared for the society. And at school, we do find teachers, and teachers should be the center of the educational institutions of society. So in our families, parents, they rear us by nourishing us, supporting our physical and emotional development. And at school, our teachers prepare us for the future life in the society. So it is important that parents and teachers speak the same language. We should be able to walk the talk. And parents getting involved into their children's education, it is very important. This shows how interested they are. This shows how valuable their education in school is. And if parents do not get involved in the education of their children, it shows that there is something that is not right. So looking at the topic of the day, I think this is something that as parents in this nation of Zambia, we should be able to reflect upon. How do we get involved in this? Because at the end of the day, these children are learning in order to be citizens that can love this nation. So in our homes, we educate them to be filial sons and daughters, and at school they educate them to be patriots, people that can die for this nation, people that can sacrifice for this nation, people that can give anything for the sake of the development of this nation. That's why it is important that parents get involved into the education of their children.
So Fredrick, your CV shows that you're actually a teacher of early childhood education. So I feel this question would best be answered by you. What do you think is the influence of daycare centers on parental involvement during early childhood?
Thank you so much for that wonderful question. Maybe before we look at the influence of daycare centers on parental involvement, it's very important that we understand what a daycare center is. So a daycare center is just an institution that provides supervision and care of infants and children during daytime, particularly so that their parents can hold jobs, they can continue with their businesses and the other things of life. From the little experience that I have, and from the little that I've seen in my career as an early childhood educator and a child specialist, is that daycare centers have a very negative impact on parental involvement. One thing that we should understand is that when a child is born, the first school is the family. That's where learning starts from. And it's very, very important that parents are actively involved in the development of the child before the child is even taken to school, because that's the first environment the child is exposed to. So now, this time around, parents are very, very busy to an extent that they don't have time to take care of their children. They don't have time to interact with their children, and they have resorted to taking their children to daycare centers so that their children are looked after, without realizing the negative impact that daycare centers have on the development of the child. So, what we see here is children develop trust in the people that surround them. That's why this time around you can see a child arguing with the parent over something. They are going to tell you to say, no, teacher said this. because the child spends most of his time with the teacher. Hence, whatever the teacher says, it's right to that child, because that's the person that child interacts with most of the times. You are going to find that some parents take their children to daycare centers even at the age of when the baby is just six months old. 6 months old, when the child stops breastfeeding. You know, it has made even parents to stop breastfeeding children at inappropriate time. You are going to find that at the age of 6 months, the child is weaned. And when the child is weaned, the child is taken to daycare because the mother was just given 6 months leave, maternity leave, and she has to continue with work. So this mother will look for a daycare center where she will take her child. And this child will be taken care of by someone who is a care provider. So as this child grows, we are going to find that the child is going to develop more trust in that caregiver than the mother, because the child has less time of interaction with the mother. Then the second negative thing, the negative influence that daycare centers have on parental involvement in the development of the child, you know, it's very sad to learn that this time around parents can't even wash for their children, you know, because they have centers where they take their children. Here is a parent who can't even change the diaper of a child when the child messes, you know, because they are used to packing the diapers in the bags as they take their children to school, as they take their children to daycare centers. So now what we see here is the responsibility of parents being shifted to caregivers, which is not supposed to be the case. I can confidently say the time I will marry, when I have my own child, I will never allow my wife to take the child to daycare centers at an appropriate age, you know, because I have seen the negative impact. You know, parents just become very irresponsible in a way that whatever the child does, they would say the child will be corrected at school. The child will be corrected by the caregivers, just like that. And we have seen a lot of, you know, bad vices being developed by these children. So it's very, very important that parents are actively involved in the development of the child. Unlike giving your children to strangers to take care of them, because you don't know how they are being taken care of. You don't know how they are being developed. So it's your responsibility as a parent. If at all we have viewers who are parents, we have listeners who are parents, it is your responsibility to take care of your child. These daycare centers are there, these schools are there, yes, but one thing that we should understand is that we should work hand in hand for the development of the child. Not a situation where you can't even change your child's diapers. You don't even know, you don't even want to get involved. It's either you call for a maid, or you expect that to happen from the center where the child is being taken. It's very, very unfortunate. Yeah, so please, let's ensure that as parents, we actively involve ourselves in the development of our children. Thank you so much.
I believe parents out there that are listening to this podcast would like to know some of the benefits that they might be able to get out of this, or what would they achieve for their children. So let's get it from you, Faith. What do you think are some of the benefits of parental involvement in line with the learner's performance?
Well, before I delve into mentioning the benefits one by one, let me just say Article 18 of the United Nations on the Convention of the Rights of a Child acknowledges the responsibility of parents in a child's life, in education to be specific. So for such an article to acknowledge how important parental involvement is, it really shows that parents need to be getting involved out there. So firstly, as a benefit, parental involvement overall improves the performance of a child. In many subjects such as comprehension and mathematics, if we have parents that are involved in such subjects, there has been a great increase in a child's performance in those subjects. I am a product of that. I remember my parents used to help me read, used to help me get my homeworks done, and I improved really well. And secondly, the students feel confident about themselves and the work that they produce, and most pupils have confidence to further their education, knowing that they have the full support of their parents in their education. Thirdly, parental involvement decreases drug and alcohol abuse or even use. A lot of children that have got their parents involved in their education rarely indulge into drinking or even abusing drugs. So knowing that my parent is involved positively, not the kind of involvement that will belittle the child's confidence, but rather increase the child's confidence. Children who have such parents rarely abuse drugs. Most importantly, it helps the teachers know the students more. For parents that are involved in the child's education, who call their teachers, often need to know how their child is performing. Teachers will know how they need to help their child, because during that conversation they'll have with the teacher will know the weaknesses the child has, the strengths, and help them in that direction. I feel parents should no longer be involved only when it comes to collecting the child's results, but I feel they need to be more into the education by not only helping them with their homeworks. I'll give a tip to the parents of what my parents used to do. So on weekends, my dad would check our books to see how far we have gone, what we have done, and will ask us questions as to what challenges we had faced. And that really helped me and my siblings understand our strengths and our weaknesses as it regards to education, and it helped us channel the right attitude and the right strength and the right motivation in the right direction. So yeah, parental involvement is really important, and I would advise parents to be involved in their children's lives, especially academically.
So let's go back to Andrico. So Andrico, in your first response, you made it very clear when you said parents are key and are very important when it comes to the performance of their children in education. So let's just take it a step further and maybe try to find out from you, what are some of the contributing factors that lead to lack of parents' participation in children's education in both rural and urban areas?
Well, I would start by giving a story of my father. My father told me, I think in the 90s, he said, "You see, my son, today you are lucky. You go to school. You are going to school upon a foundation already set." And I remember in my time when we were first asked to go to school, we didn't know for how long we would be in school, and we didn't even know why we were going to school. So it was in a sense telling me that our generation is lucky, their generation was not truly lucky, because they were the pioneers of education in Africa. Just right after the independence, children of Africans were also allowed to go to school. As they were going to school, their parents did not have the chance, were not given the opportunity to study. So you could see that this created a lack of knowledge about the curriculum. So their parents, who are our grandparents, didn't know the curriculum. They didn't know what their children were learning. They only knew how to speak, but they didn't know how to read. They didn't know how to explain things that their children were learning. So the first factor is the lack of knowledge. This is what they faced in the past, and at the same time, they also faced another fact, which is the importance attached to school, to education. They didn't really think that education is important, so they sent their children without getting involved in anything whatsoever. But now, today, what is our situation? Today, we are living in this modern society. In this modern society, I would give my example. we work, and we do have children. And what is blocking us from getting involved into the education of our children? Today we have a problem with time. We don't have time. We are lacking time to participate in the education of our children. Our works, our jobs are so hectic. So we see that because of time, we cannot really have access. We cannot get involved. At the same time, we also see the attitude of the school staff, and as I said, during the first intervention, I said the family, parents should be at the center. And within a family, we understand that we do have issues. We have family issues that are sort of emotional and all this. And we tend as parents not to want to help our children because they did this or they did this to us. So we want we want to punish them for whatever they did, but not knowing that the attitude that we portray is actually not helping our children at all. And if this attitude does not help our children, well, what kind of society are we going to build, and what kind of nation are we going to build? It won't be a successful or a strong nation. It will just be a nation full of crises, full of problems. So one of the factors is also this these family issues that we face, and also the language. And it is not of course we are also finding that because of poverty, some parents they find it difficult to get involved into the education of their children. So in rural areas we find two factors. The first one is this importance attached to school, and the second point is the lack of knowledge. When you just go to Nampungwe, you would find people that have never been to town, people that have never written even one, and these people have children. So for them it's just farming, and also keeping cows, cattle. This is life for them. So you see, they don't have the knowledge, and they also do not attach any importance to the education of their children. And in urban areas, we find that parents are too busy, taken by work, taken by this and this, and they cannot really have time for their children. And I think as parents, we should really reflect upon this and see how we can truly build a strong nation. We can care for the future. So we say children are the future, and if we truly want to build a brighter future, we truly want to build a nation that is strong, we need to understand that every single moment that we spend with our children is valuable, and we should add value to every single moment we spend with them, because they are the future. And if we want a bright future, then we need to be bright in everything that we do today. So as parents, let's wake up. Let's see the importance of getting involved into the education of their children, because their future is our future, and they are continuing with the tradition and the education. So if we do not stand up and do not get involved into the education, then we are kind of ruining ourselves. So basically this is my intervention for today. I really thank VSI for extending their invitation to me to be part of the panelists, and I hope this message goes a long way and helps many other parents out there who are also striving in line with us in order to build a strong nation. So tiende pamoja na mtima umo, one Zambia, one nation. Thank you very much.
Coming back to you, Fredrick, how can we encourage parents to be more involved in children's education, especially in rural areas?
Thank you so much again for this wonderful question on how we can encourage parents to be more involved in children's education, especially those in rural areas. One thing that we should understand is that parents are key stakeholders in the education system. That's why even here in Zambia, our education system has got policies that bring parents on board, because the parents are key stakeholders because they are the owners of the children that come to school. Hence, we cannot leave them behind in the development of their children. Yeah, it has been noticed that especially in rural areas, parents are less involved in the school activities of their children. But we can encourage parents to be actively involved. Yeah, and how do we do it? You know, the schools have got policies, different policies of course, because the policy that we use here cannot be the same policy that is used, because policies are in different categories. There are international policies that are practiced worldwide. There are national policies. These are policies that are used countrywide. Then there are also school-based policies. These are policies that schools just come up with so that they address certain issues within their confinement. And these policies cannot be found maybe elsewhere or in any other school. Yeah, so policies are there that try to bring parents on board. How? Through PTA meetings, parent-teacher associations. Those meetings, parents can be sensitized on the importance of their involvement in the education of their children. Many times when we think of parental involvement in the education of their children, we only think about parents helping their children with homework. And in the actual sense, that homework is not given to parents. Homework is given to children. That's why before a teacher gives homework, the teacher will explain to the child what is expected of that child to do in that particular homework. Now, it is surprisingly noticed that most of the homeworks are addressed to parents. And in rural areas, the literacy levels of parents cannot be compared to those in rural areas. Hence, you are going to find that even in issues to do with homework, parents are not involved because some can't read, some can't write, just like that. So now, let's encourage parents to be more involved in their children's education through PTA meetings. Let's sensitize them. Let's educate them so that they understand that parental involvement does not mean doing the child's homework. Let them understand that parental involvement means buying a book for a child so that the child can go to school. Parental involvement means when the parent is summoned by the teacher, the parent should show up so that the parent understands why the teacher has summoned that particular parent. Let the parent always be there for the child. Parental involvement means the parent paying school fees for the child. We have a very good policy this time around in education where if the parent can't afford money, there is a way of paying in kind. Let the parent take groundnuts to school. The school is going to value that groundnuts. Let the parents take goats to school. And when they do that, they pay for their children's school fees. That means they are involved in their education, unlike the perception that we have when it comes to parental involvement. Then teachers should also be encouraged to have a dialogue with parents. Like the teacher has got rights to summon the parent to come to school so that they can have an interaction over the development of the child. And parents can be encouraged during that interaction. The importance of their involvement in the education of their children can be highlighted during that interaction. And I tell you, when we do that, when teachers do that, when education systems do that, we are going to find that there's going to be a difference. There's going to be a very, very big difference.
I believe wherever 2 people or 3 people are getting involved for a particular goal, clashes might occur. So this question will come back to you, Faith, again. How can we ensure that there are no clashes between teachers and parents in as much as we encourage parental involvement?
Well, Farai, I do agree with you. Where two or more people are involved, there's bound to be a clash. However, with the education sector, a clash is most likely to arise when parents become excessively involved in the child's education. So in order that such clashes are avoided, schools should create healthy environments where teachers and parents are able to develop policies regarding parental participation. These policies can state boundaries so that parents know how far they can go with being involved with the education of a child without interfering in the teacher's business. They can be involved with helping their children with homeworks, attending the sports and culture days that are made by the schools. That is, if the school actually requires the parents to be present, they can attend parent-teacher meetings organized by the schools and other relevant events, and making sure that parents know the boundaries and understand the boundaries that have been set. I think by doing that, there will be less clashes between parents and teachers, and both of them will not interfere in each other's work. So yeah, I feel these are the ways we can reduce parent-teacher clashes.
As the saying goes, education is the key to success. Therefore, for our children to succeed, there should be effective parental involvement in the learner's performance in both urban areas and rural areas. I have been your host, Fredrick Mukonde, and on behalf of my panelists that joined me today, the VSI team and the supporting partners that ensure that we're able to publish this VSI podcast to you today, I wish you love, hope, and peace. Pleasant listening.